actually on our Triple Negative Breast Cancer Day broadcast last year. And that was the first time we ever actually talked, you know. And man, you had a lot going on then, but since that time, it's been a whirlwind. But let's take our viewers back to when you were first diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. If you could tell us how that all went down, like how did you discover you had triple negative breast cancer?
Well, I was at the age where it was recommended to have a mastectomy, you know, once a year. Can you hear me okay?
I think you meant a mammogram, right?
Or mammogram, sorry.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I can hear you great. We can hear you great. Right. Yeah, we can hear you great, and we can see you great. You're doing great. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was past due. I mean, I was past due by about 4 months. I was busy. I got busy.
Right.
And the doctor I was working for was diagnosed with breast cancer. Well, I happened to be working right next to the radiology clinic. So I really had no excuse. So I went next door. I said, I need my mammogram.
Oh, wow.
That's how I coped with her bad news, right?
Right.
And it turned out that regular mammogram did not show a tumor, but the 3D mammogram did reveal a tumor hiding back close to my chest wall.
And what year was that, Becky?
What's that?
What year was that?
That was 2015.
Right.
I had just turned 50.
And the 3D mammograms are getting to be a lot more common now. Like they're a lot more readily available than they probably were in 2015, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I had the regular mammogram, and then I had the 3D after that.
Gotcha.
And, you know, in the same session. And it's only the 3D mammogram that caught the tumor that was back on the chest wall. So I had the radiologist do a needle biopsy in a day or two, I think the next day, and it came back triple negative.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And were you like me as soon as you got diagnosed with that, or were you already familiar with triple negative, or did you jump on the internet like I did?
Yeah, jumped on the internet, had no idea.
And that can
none
be
whatsoever.
That can be a scary thing all in of itself, is getting on the internet. When you start reading about triple negative breast cancer, guys, it's like all doom and gloom out there when you read about it. It truly is. But you know, I remember my doctor was like, be sure and go check out reputable sources, you know. So I went straight to the American Cancer Society for the information I got. So you got this diagnosis, and you're trying to absorb what this triple negative breast cancer is. What happened next?
Well, I was, you know, I was shocked. I didn't really know how to process the information, other than just approaching it matter of fact, going, okay, we're going after this.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is not going to take me down.
Right.
It's not happening, because I didn't like what I was reading. I had never heard of it. What I did read was, like you said, it was grim, and it was negative, you know, and didn't really offer a ton of hope, to be honest with you, because the standard treatment at that time was the same standard treatment for all breast cancers. You know, even just in 2015. And so still no targeted therapy, right? So we just went after it. We just jumped on the train and started with chemo.
Right. And remind me, which chemotherapy treatments did you do? A lot of the women watching who were triple negative, who had triple negative, had the adriamycin, Cytoxan, and Taxol. What did you have? What was your chemo?
I actually started with a carboplatin type of drug, but I didn't tolerate it well. So they switched me to adriamycin, Cytoxan.
Gotcha.
And it didn't melt the tumor away that it does for some. For me, I seem to be a little chemo resistant.
Wow,
so
that's scary.
Yeah, a little bit. And so it looked like it was growing, and then it looked like it was stable. And so we just decided to pass on the Taxol piece and go straight to mastectomy and just get it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so after you had the mastectomy, did they declare you cancer free at that point?
Well, essentially, yeah, because there's no residual tumor, right? They've removed the tumor, and I didn't have any. I had some nodes taken and tested, and those were all clear.
Wow, wow.
So,
and what did they stage you with at that time, Becky?
Stage 1.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Every time you tell this story, I'm just like, oh my gosh. Because, I mean,
stage 1.
Yeah, I was stage 1 as well. I had adriamycin, Cytoxan, Taxol, a double mastectomy, did all of that stuff. And so stage 1, then what happened in 2017?
So, well, actually, I had my reconstruction. So I got my new tatas in 2016, right? Yeah, 2016 in the summer. And I felt pretty good about it. That was an easier surgery. And I was pleased with the outcome, and it was great. But there was a little pea-sized bump, on the top of that same breast. And they said, oh, it might be fat necrosis, it might be this. So, my reconstruction was in June of 2016, 1 year later.
Right.
And in October of 2016, not 17, 16, I said, I don't care what that is. It doesn't belong there. Will you take it out?
I like that idea. That seems like a good idea to me. And where did you say this was located exactly? Like it was on your chest before the reconstruction, or?
No, after I had my implants put in. There's a smallest amount of tissue that's left behind to keep your, everything viable and blood flow. And so it was just right on the surface, and when I'm showering, I can feel it. And I'm like, this is disconcerting to me. I don't care what it is. Just take it out.
Get rid of it.
And he goes, okay, we'll just take it out. And then you don't have to think about it anymore. And it turned out to be triple negatives.
My goodness. My goodness.
I know.
That's insane. So that kind of gets us up to speed with sort of where we were when we talked last year, right? Close anyway. I know there's plenty of other stuff that's happened since then. But just in the past year alone, I've been watching and following your story, and it's just been almost chaotic. I mean, just to see all the whirlwind of stuff you've gone through, and all the great things also that have happened. That I want you to talk about, and about how you made those decisions to speed a few things up in your life.
Yeah. Well, gosh. So, we'll go back. I mean, I ended up having to do chemo again, right after the recurrence. So here we go again, and I did Taxotere this time, lost my hair again, and then chose to do radiation over the implant. So behind the implant, over the implant, around the implant, up in my neck. I mean, they radiated me like crazy. And so that if there's any other cells in there, we're just gonna fry them. That's what we're gonna do. It's like, okay. And so it's changed things a little bit in that regard. But and after that was done, I seemed to be free and clear. But I had some CT scans of my, just follow-up CT scans, little spots in my lungs. We all have things like that sometimes that are just kind of normal. We just don't know that they're there until we're examining, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden, one scan showed a significant increase in size, and I ended up this last August. I have to think really hard.
It's a lot.
I know, it's a lot. I ended up with 3 tumors in my left lung that just kind of exploded out of nowhere.
Wow. And
so I had an upper left lobectomy, so half of my lung removed in August.
So tell me just real quick, because I mean, if I'm thinking some of the viewers maybe, how does that feel like when you have that lumpectomy? Can you tell a difference in your breathing since that time?
Yeah, I'm really short of breath. Yeah. But I can do, I can do exercises and do breathing exercises, and my right lung will catch up. eventually. It's still, to be honest with you, it's still kind of new, right?
Yeah, I bet it would be.
Last August.
Yeah, that's not that far gone. Yeah, no. Wow.
No, I've been busy.
Yeah, no doubt. You have.
So I'm glad that we had the lung removed, because instead of 2 tumors like the CT scans showed, there was actually a third one hiding behind those 2. So I was totally okay. Just take them out.
Yeah.
And so then we were talking about chemo again. And before we could even really get started on that pathway, I ended up with kind of a seizure type of episode that landed me in the emergency room with a brain MRI, and I had 2 brain tumors
and
prior to
November. Prior to that, had they done any PET scans or anything else that where they had checked your head at all?
I have had a brain MRI before when I was complaining of headaches, and it was clear.
Okay.
So there was really no other indication, to have a repeat.
Yeah, that's not a normal thing. Like, in the entire time that I went through breast cancer, and since that time, the only things that I had as far as checkups went were really just chest x-rays. I might have had some other things that I chased after that were unrelated, like a shoulder problem, and they're like, we want to do an MRI because it's on the same side where you had breast cancer and stuff like that, but not any just like regular checkups where it's like, oh, we're going to do a PET scan or anything like that, because again, stage 1. But at this point, you had it had gone into your lungs, and so now we're to the point where it's actually in your brain, and they found 2 during that after that seizure. So what happened next after that?
Immediately went to surgery. Yeah, it was a pretty sizable tumor. And so I don't know how long it had been there, but my guess from this very, very most recent, because I had 2 more tumors just really recently pop up and grew really fast. My guess is it wasn't there for very long. It's just very aggressive and very rapid growth.
Wow.
So, which is, when you read about triple negative, it's clearly stated, right?
It's exactly what they say. It sure is. It sure is. Well, I can only imagine, being there in the hospital, and they are doing the MRI, and you're probably scared in the first place, because your history with breast cancer, triple negative breast cancer, and then having the MRI and just hoping that that's not it, finding out it's it, and then being rushed off to surgery.
Right.
I mean, can you describe to folks who are watching me, what was that moment like when they told you that you had those tumors? That had to just be terrifying.
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
So I did have a sense that I probably did have something that was going to come back on the brain MRI based on the type of seizure I had. It's not the type that you would imagine laying on the floor thrashing. My brain was not communicating with my right arm, and so when I was reaching for something, to pick it up, my hand was actually going off a different direction. Even though my brain said it was reaching forward, my arm was going a different direction. So
it's the wires are crossed or something almost.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was the strangest feeling ever. It was a little frightening, but it was kind of frightening in a groovy kind of a way. It's like, hey, this is really weird, and I'm going to test this out again.
Yeah, I'll bet.
This is not
my
supposed
goodness.
to be happening.
Yeah.
So I had a gut feeling that it was probably going to come back. And when she walked into the room with Bryce and I, it was a little bit of a gut punch. Yeah. So I'm still recovering from lung surgery, which is a really, really big surgery, as it turns out.
I could only imagine. Yeah.
So, and I have kids, and I understand the metastatic disease part of it, because I too, like you, am involved in a lot of Facebook support groups, and I like to stay connected. and offer what's worked for me and what hasn't worked for me, as far as symptoms and things like that. So I do get to watch others with metastatic disease, and now I'm one of them.
Yeah. And so at the moment that they found the tumors in your lung, is that when they basically, I mean, if you didn't know already, that's when they were like, it's metastatic at this point.
Right. But for some reason in my head, I thought, well, I'm going to have that whole part of my lung removed and it's going to go away.
Yeah, and it's just gone. But that's just not how it works, right? No, once you're metastatic.
Apparently not.
Yeah, metastatic, you're just sort of chasing it at that point because it's just a matter of where is it going to pop up. Because it's kind of in you. Yeah.
Right. So that, when you read about triple negative, if it's going to recur, it's going to recur in the same breast, or it's going to recur in a different organ.
Right.
And they talk about liver, bone, brain, and lung.
Yep.
And so now I've got 2 of them, right?
Right.
So my goal is to, kind of do my part and continue to chase and attack and go after and stay progression free. So that's my new term.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That's a good thing to do. So in the midst of all this, you had some things going on in your personal life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the lung issue, that was August, right?
Right.
And the brain issue, what month was that?
November.
And so then in your personal life, what you kind of started to reevaluate everything that was going on and started to kind of look at your life and make some decisions. So tell everybody about it. Yeah, man, tell them, let's do it.
Okay. Well, Bryce and I, my drummer, Bryce, he actually proposed to me at the end of July at the beach. And so we were engaged to be married after being together for 9.5 years.
Wow,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so after what happened was that I had my MRI in the emergency room. They came back. They said, you have brain mets, you have 2 tumors. You need to have surgery right away. And it actually wasn't immediately like that day. I was scheduled for 6 days away. And they put me on anti-seizure meds. Well, we raced down and we got our marriage license and we called in a bunch of favors and got an attorney and yada, yada, yada. And by that next Saturday, I was getting married in my living room with a judge. It was awesome.
So what day, what was the day you got married exactly?
Oh my gosh, don't do that to me.
I hope Bryce isn't watching. Come on.
He's going to see this. I'm so in trouble. December 1st.
December 1st. So July you're proposed to. August, you've got the whole lung thing. You have a partial lungectomy or whatever you called it there. Lobectomy. And then in November you have the brain seizure and the surgery on your brain. And then
I did have chemo. I did do 1 round of chemo in between all that.
Wow. Well, because you weren't doing enough, clearly.
I know.
And then in December, you're married. Bam. Like that, right?
Boom. Done.
So cool. And the pictures I saw on Facebook, it was just such a lovely wedding. And you guys looked gorgeous. Everybody looked great. And so that's in December. And then what else has happened since that time?
So he, are we talking about Nyla?
Yes.
Okay, good. So part of the other reason is that you had talked about in your video how we reevaluate our life, right? I mean, we do a whole bunch of soul searching and prioritizing and bucket listing and all of that stuff. Yes. So we went back to the attorney and Bryce officially adopted Nyla as his very own. Wow. And so she has a new hyphenated last name.
How cool. Is she there with you today?
No.
Okay, I was going to say we could have her do a cameo because she was gorgeous when we did our test drive on Friday. She was awesome.
Yeah. She is awesome.
Wow.
She's pretty incredible. So she's been calling him, dad. He's been stepdad for a long time. So now it's official.
He's dad.
And of course, we're doing these things. We're getting our ducks in a row.
Sure.
That's what we need to do. But at the same time, this was something that was being discussed a long time ago.
Right.
We just decided to speed up the process.
Yeah.
It was kind of like that extra, it's time to do that.
Yeah, it's so smart too, and you're right. We, really do reevaluate our lives. It just puts everything in a whole different perspective. And any of those things that you've been waiting to do or putting off for any amount of time, you just go ahead and do them, because it's like, well, you never know what's going to happen. And to your point, getting things in order with your life, as far as like, your wills and everything like that. Like, I remember when I was first diagnosed, I looked at that, and I still have yet to get that together. And we really should do that as just anybody out there. If you're an adult, you should have that in order. Don't wait. I'm saying that as one of the people who hasn't done it yet. But we shouldn't wait. We should have that stuff in order, because you definitely don't want to be making big decisions and coordinating stuff like that under duress. It's better to have that, in advance. But yeah, you're right. It gives you this new perspective, and I'm so glad that you guys got married, and you guys are working on all of that, and the adoption, and so, and your outlook is progression free, right?
Progression free.
That is your big thing. Progression free, and don't put off those things that you've always wanted to do. Get out there and do them, right?
No, and we just kind of like hurried up, and we went to the attorney, and we got all the paperwork done, and it's done. And now I can just enjoy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's great. That is so awesome.
I'm going to do chemo again, so I can be sick and not have the worries of what did I not get done. Right. It's done.
Yeah.
It's
yeah, you're going after it, man. You're keeping up the fight. You're doing so good. And I hope that you'll continue to join us each year and give us an update, because, I think now that you've come a second year, people are really getting to know you, and they're going to want to hear updates, I mean, your story is such a unique one, and it's also just a story that people need to hear, because you're at that, like, you had it all thrown at you, and look at you, you're sitting there all smiling, you're beautiful, you've got positive energy, and you're just radiating hope to all those women watching right now. So I'm really glad.
Yeah, I do believe, that there's so many things coming out, and now that I'm metastatic, it's a whole new conversation. I'm having to relearn everything that's out there for those of us. Now I'm in a different group now, and there is hope. I'm seeing other women that are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 years progression free. They just keep going to the next drug and the next drug, and all the new stuff is coming out, and I'm kind of excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I mean, even after you had those questions that I posed to Dr. O'Shaughnessy earlier, and hearing everything that she said, and at one point in the conversation, she said if this thing goes through that's happening here in the next few months, that there will be a 95% cure rate, basically. And I'm like, whoa, it's so crazy. So I hope you do get to go back and watch that and check it out, because there definitely is hope, and we're at a really exciting time when it comes to research and trials for triple negative breast cancer. Right. So Becky, before you leave us today, I just want to see if there's one thing that you could tell your triple negative breast cancer sisters out there watching today, what would that be?
Oh my gosh, just stay the course. Don't live in fear, because not all of us, have recurrences. We know that the recurrence rate is high, but and we hear about that, right? Especially on our Facebook sites. But don't live in fear. It's debilitating. And not everybody has to, have a recurrence. Just because you're triple negative doesn't mean you're going to have a recurrence. That's the one thing that just is, I've had a few of those moments, I'm not going to lie. And it just sucks the life out of you. And I don't have time for that. I just don't. I don't want to make time for that. So look at you.
Right? I know. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, I'm 8 years cancer free right now, and you never know. Woo! You never know what life's gonna throw at you. So you just really do have to embrace every moment.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, don't live in fear.
Yeah, exactly. Good point, man. Thank you so much for joining today, Becky. You are a rock star. Everybody in the room, give it up for Becky. Woo! You rock, girl. Thank you so much for joining, okay? Love you too, girl. Take care of yourself.
All right.
Thank
you.
Everybody, Becky Brewer out of Oregon, man. She is a rock star.